Your friends are toxic and you don't know what to do about it. Well, before we get into it, I want to start off by saying that not everything that we define as toxic is truly toxic. Like sometimes we just have individuals who disagree with us. Sometimes we just have individuals with different ideologies and opinions. That is not toxic. That just means somebody else has their own mind. However, toxic is prevalent and very real. As a matter of fact, toxic behaviors and attributes are probably more prevalent than healthy behaviors and attributes within individuals. Why is that? Because we live within a world that is now celebrating toxic behavior. That's just the way that it is. That's just the way that it's going. That's why we exist. In order to go against the grain, in order to not be of the culture, but to create and innovate from a godly space. Now, that being said, you found yourself in a situation where you are surrounded by individuals who can be classified as toxic individuals. These are specific character traits. These are individuals who bring one another down as they bring themselves down, which they call like the crabs in a barrel mentality. These are individuals who have negative habits, let's say different addictions and things of that nature that leak into their relationships. These are individuals who are manipulative, who try to get their way by controlling and coercing other people to do their bidding, not for the other person's good, but for the other person's destruction and for their own benefit. There are a multitude of different classifications for a toxic friend, but since you're watching this video, my best bet is that you are spot on, that you know that it is time for you to do something about the circle that you have placed yourself in. And I do mean place yourself. I will repeat that time and time again during this video, is that all of this was down to a choice. When I was surrounded by dope boys and drug dealers and drug addicts, etc., I chose to be around those individuals. I chose to be one of those individuals. I chose to be a toxic individual within a toxic environment. But once I found myself desiring more, once I found myself within a space where I desire growth more than I desire being stagnant, I had to make the decision to leave that environment. I had to take back the power. Well, I didn't technically take back anything. I always had the power. It was just that I was negating that power, right? I wasn't taking responsibility for it. I was blaming other people for my situation, my circumstances. But once I made the decision that it was time for me to move forward from this toxic group of individuals, or removing myself from my own toxicity, first and foremost, we got to be reminded that if we're still harboring a lot of those toxic behaviors, a lot of those vices, a lot of those attributes that are destructive to our greatest good, we must first focus on clearing and cleansing ourselves of those. Now, sometimes we might need to distance ourselves before we even start to rehab ourselves into a healthier version of ourselves, right? For me, I had to step away from the group, the individuals that I knew throughout high school and the beginning of my young adult life. I had to separate myself in order for myself to be in an environment, in order for me to be in a space where I could truly just focus on healing. I could truly just focus on health. I could focus on developing different habits. Now, thankfully, my story is a very strange and peculiar one. It is one of those come to Jesus moments, but it was just a coming to self and coming to self-realization where I literally looked in the mirror, saw myself degrading and said, this can't be it. This can't be my life. After years of dope dealing and dope using, I saw myself as something that I didn't want to be, and I knew I had to leave that lifestyle if I was going to live, and I meant literally live. There are individuals who simply could not break away from that lifestyle. They couldn't break the vices. The vices had them. They were given over to that toxicity, and I realized that I was not one of those. And now here you are. Now, you might not have a story of being in the streets. You might not have a story of getting into a lifestyle that was externally toxic. However, you might find yourself within friendships, within relationships that are absolutely toxic from within, that are abusive in nature, that are manipulative in nature, that are filled with individuals who would rather gossip and slander and talk about people than actually be progressive. And now here you are trying to become, not trying, scratch that. There is only do or do not. There is no try. That's a Yoda bar. Now, you find yourself in a space where you are doing what is necessary for you to overcome your current situation and circumstance. However, you feel as if you're being derailed by the individuals that you surround yourself with. You found yourself in a group of individuals who are widespread within toxicity, who have delved into the crevices and the depth of toxicity. And you feel as if you cannot move forward unless you get yourself up out of that dark tar, up out of that wilderness, up out of that pit in the ground that you have placed yourself in. Now, thankfully, you chose to put yourself into those friendships and those relationships. And if it's family, you might not have chosen by, let's say, by birth, but you are now able to make a decision for yourself. Will you continue to perpetuate those same habits and behaviors in order to not feel the perceived guilt that might come from leaving the people you've known for so long? Are you going to allow guilt to stop you from stepping into destiny? And I tell you this, I've seen a lot of folks right before they're truly about to leave, right before they're truly about to step into their greatness, they stop themselves because of one fear. And that fear is a fear of being judged by those of their past. Now imagine this. If you were, let's say, moving up in your life, you were doing things, you were aspiring towards greater things, right? And you just got the dream house and the dream life and the dream spouse and the dream this and the dream that, all the things that you truly desire on this planet. And there was a man who was strung off of crack, just a stranger, a man you've never met in your life. And this individual started all of a sudden guilt tripping you, right? Saying how you shouldn't have these things, and they started judging you, and they started basically trying to bring you into what they're doing. They say, man, you need to get on a pipe like me. You probably would not take that individual too serious. As a matter of fact, you probably laugh them off, or maybe give them a few dollars or whatever it is, just let them be on their way. But I know for a fact that you would not entertain that in the same way that you do with the individuals that you call your so-called best friends, that you call your so-called fam, your day ones. When it's your day one saying something that is shaming you back into a certain behavior, when it's your quote unquote day ones who are telling you to come back to that pipe, who are telling you to come back to those addictions, that are telling you to come back to those unsavory lifestyles, you take it as if it is the gospel. When in truth, these are simply individuals that you have probably grown apart from, because you have chosen to prioritize different things within your own life experience. That's the first realization that has to take place when you are separating yourself from your current circumstance. Number two is you must be willing to grow through true isolation. I'm not talking about being alone or lonely necessarily. Loneliness is a state of mind. Alone is a state, or isolation, it is a conscious and an intentional state of will. Meaning when you isolate yourself, you are separated from something with an intention to grow, an intention to go within, an intention to develop and to move forward. But when you are quote unquote lonely, it's because you feel as if you need the company of others to satisfy some sort of need that you have, some sort of void that you are feeling, right? And at first, yes, when you separate yourself, you may feel lonely at first, but you will realize that you were never truly alone. As a matter of fact, you probably felt more lonely when you were around the individuals that you truly didn't want to be around, when you were doing the things that were not resonating with who you truly are. You felt more isolated from yourself when you were doing things that weren't aligned with who you are. Let me repeat that one more time. You felt more isolated within a group of individuals who are always there. You felt more isolated in that, doing something you didn't believe in, than you would being separated from everybody. That's just the truth. And if you go back in history and you look back at the lives of, King David to Solomon, well, Solomon probably got his time alone. But if you look at King David, if you look at Job, if you look at different individuals, let's say Abraham, these individuals were separated, right? The Siddhartha, these individuals were separated from the life that they knew. They were separated from the things that they knew in order for them to finally come into a recognition of who they truly were, who they were called to be by the divine, who they were called to be by the Most High. And the only way that could happen is they needed to separate themselves from the noise. They needed to separate themselves from the past. They needed to let the dead bury the dead and to move forward in life. And again, the only way you are going to be able to do that is when you are willingly removing yourself from that no longer serves you and never truly did serve you, to be honest with you. It just seemed to serve you at that moment in time. Once you move forward into that space, once you move forward into a state of intentionally connecting to truth, I promise you, everything else is going to be water. And when I say water, I mean it's going to be a stream. It's going to be downstream. It's going to be an easy flow of life. The hardest part is the separation from the lifestyle. Hardest part is the separation from the guilt complex that comes from it. Trust me, I know I had more survivor's guilt than I did anything else. But once I was able to overcome that feeling as if I was wrong for leaving a place that was destructive in nature, once I got over that, everything else was a cakewalk. Everything else has been, to be honest with you, everything else has been icing on a cake. Everything's been a cherry on top. Everything has been. Because if I knew that I could get myself out of that space, if I knew that I could trust that voice within and step away from that, then how much more can I do? That's already the hard part. If you're separating yourself from that lifestyle, you're then separating yourself from the vices. Like if you've been going to the club, the strip clubs, or whatever it is, and you no longer do that, and now you in a family, you're a family woman, a family man. Oh, come on. Everything else is a cakewalk. Yes, there's going to be trials. Yes, there's going to be things in which you overcome, but you're going to be doing it from a new state of consciousness. You're going to be doing it with an awareness that everything is working for your greatest good. And when you have that state of mind, a clear, conscious state of mind connected to the divine, it's a wrap. So, you found yourself in a circle of individuals who are toxic in nature. There's no need to judge them. There's no need to hold on to them. There's no need to hold on to resentment and bring sickness to your own bones. There's no need to hold on to them or anything from your past. It might take time, and it will take time, to be honest with you. But it will take more intention than it takes time. But eventually, you will forgive yourself, and you will forgive those who you blamed as being the cause of your misery. Because in truth, we all always had a decision in who we surrounded ourselves with. And just because we didn't know any better, we surrounded ourselves with the individuals that were no good for us. But now that we know, we grow. Shout out Maya Angelou. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Namaste and namaste go. Aquarius. I am the child of the light. Glow. I'm raising the dead into life. Whoa.